Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new. My name is David, and let's talk about some books. It's been a little bit since I made my last video, and my video making productivity has gone down, but I'm going to try to make up for that today because we're going to talk about not one, not two, not three, but four books in one go. So we're just going to dive right into it. And this is all Michael K. Vaughan's fault. Well, not this first book, because I had already picked up a copy of Tarzan of the Apes prior to Michael K. Vaughan. Because it was a cheap Signet classic, and the name jumped out at me at a half-price book, so I picked it up, expecting that, hey, I would read Tarzan. And if you recall, I give it probably 4.5 stars. Was expecting it to be 4.5, and the last 10% of the book absolutely sealed the deal for me. It blew me away. Fantastic book. It is easily, of the four that I'm going to be talking about today, my favorite of the four. I absolutely love this one. It is nothing like the Disney Tarzan. This is the Tarzan that you want to be reading about, to enjoy. In the same way that I found with Robert E. Howard and Conan, which will be my next video, probably. What you know about that figure does not hold true with this book. And it's far more interesting. It's far more well developed. Lord Greystoke teaches himself to read, for instance, while out in the jungle. So he finds a book, a picture book, a letters book, at what is the abandoned cottage where his parents had built and lived, but he doesn't know that. And he teaches himself to read. And so he understands writing, but can't speak it because, well, there's nobody but him in the jungle until one day. And this is phenomenal. This is peak Burroughs so far out of the four that I've read. I tremendously enjoyed it. And I had been assured by Michael K. Vaughan that the return of Tarzan was going to be even better, that it was probably his favorite, the Tarzan series. And Michael and I both agree after reading this one, this was a reread for him and a read for the first time for me, that this is not as good as Tarzan of the Apes. It's good. It's still very enjoyable. It has its own unique plot. It goes in a direction that you don't really expect it. It picks up where the first book kind of leaves off. It didn't really leave with a cliffhanger, but it left things that you would have wanted to see resolved in a certain way at the end of that book weren't resolved that way. And so this kind of picks up very, very soon after that. And for a long time, you have diverging paths. Jane and her party of folks, and then Tarzan being separated from all of them throughout the vast majority of this book. And it provides a very interesting being able to bounce between the chapters. There's some intrigue and some plots in here. There's an adventure into ancient ruins, finding a lost civilization. I mean, there's all kinds of fun stuff in this one. And I did thoroughly enjoy it, in spite of it not being quite as good as the first one. It was good. And one thing to mention is Burroughs wrote at a time when things were more conventional to label, to make sweeping assumptions. And so if that type of profiling will bother you, then, Burroughs, Howard, they might not jive as well with you, because there's going to be times where Tarzan runs into a civilization of what he terms as blacks, and that they are, uncivilized barbarians and things like that. And, but there are strong racial things in these books, especially when you get to the Barsoom series, because there's a diverse series of, or a diverse number of races within there, and that definitely plays a big factor in there, in more of a way that defies what you would expect from someone of his time. So, Princess of Mars was the first of the Barsoom series. It was Burroughs' first book. He just, I guess his story is he was kind of reading through some things, saw some stories in some pulp magazine or something, and said, hey, I could write something better than that. And so he wrote this. And it was good. It was a very solid. Didn't blow me away, but it was a good entry point for Edgar Rice Burroughs. John Carter being a very interesting hero, what you would expect from kind of a pulpy action hero, really strong, overpowered, able to do great things. But you're picking that up because you're along for the ride. You want to see the adventures, you want to see the excitement and the exploration and all of the encounters that come along the way, rather than being focused on, well, is this realistic? Is this what you would expect? If you suspend your disbelief, thinking of it as in terms of maybe a superhero type of story, or if you're picking up James Bond, for example, you know that there are going to be some situations where things might get a little tricky and sideways, but by and large, you expect that it's going to be a pretty standard. These things are going to happen. You can check the boxes as you go along the way, but you're along for the fun ride and the adventure and the excitement and seeing how it all unfolds. And that continues to hold true in The Gods of Mars, where this one really gets into the swath of different races that are on Mars and how they all have kind of conflicts, and they can have some of those bridged over time with a leading figure that is able to kind of pull some of them together. And this one takes place 10 years after the events of A Princess of Mars. I won't spoil anything that happened at the end of A Princess of Mars or why that becomes such a powerful component into this one. But needless to say, there's more time that elapses before this book than in the Tarzan stories. And this is really good too. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm excited to continue both of those series. Thank you, Michael K. Vaughan, not only for the gift of many of those books in those series, but also for hosting the great Edgar Rice Burroughs read-along, which we have on hiatus this month. I was pleasantly surprised at his choice to kind of maybe take the month off because he's got The Stand by Stephen King on his docket for this month. And that's okay, because I had plenty of other things I needed to get to. So I'm happy to set these aside. I might substitute in a Zelazny or something in order to keep a foot in the older fantasy, sci-fi type stories without getting ahead of the game on the Burroughs. And yeah, I wanted to keep this quick. I wanted to make a video. I've missed making these videos. I love watching and chatting with all of y'all on BookTube. So I wanted to get something out there because I had several of you kind of check in and notice, hey, it's been a little while since we've seen anything from you. Are you okay? And yeah, everything's great. Just been busy. And, unfortunately, this doesn't come first. I'm in the middle of reading a long book with The Pillars of the Earth, which I'm buddy reading with Bright Bookish, Sarah over there. She's been fun to kind of chat with as we go along, and that's been really, really fun so far. I'm about a third of the way into the book and just absolutely loving it. And then I'm working my way through two other books, one that I'm close to finishing, which I'll be sure to review here shortly before I have to return it to the library, and one that I just started the other day, and I'm close to halfway through because I had a lot more time for reading it than I had anticipated. So I'm looking forward to talking about that one too. So thank you for watching, and hopefully this won't be the last video you see out of me this weekend.